In this video I'm going to go over what I use to film in the backcountry. Here's my filming bag. It's a low pro bag, which the quality's been really good. It's held up really well. It has a little rain cover that packs into the bottom, and if it's really rainy or if I'm running rapids, often I don't have room for this in my main dry backpack. So I have this extra dry bag which I stuff in the top compartment here, and I can put it in there if need be. In this front pocket I've got batteries galore. I've got about 10 GoPro batteries there and about 10 batteries for the main cameras. Like so there's a lot of weight in my camera bag. Circular polarizing filter. These are really key if you're shooting in broad daylight, especially in bright sunny conditions, especially on the water. So as a canoeist, this is extremely valuable. It cuts glare off of the surface of reflective objects, namely the water. So instead of just getting that really washed out surface of the water, you can actually kind of see into it and see depths and colors. It's much nicer for that. And then here, this is my main camera, the Panasonic FZ 300. It is not a fancy camera. I used to sell cameras at Black's Photography when they were still in business. And I used to look down upon these hybrid cameras. I had an SLR, a 4-lens kit, and I loved it, but it wasn't practical for the backcountry. Changing lenses is one thing, like if it's raining, or just by nature of being out there, you're in like dirty, potentially dusty conditions. If you're changing lenses all the time, then you're going to get a dirty sensor over time, and it's just a hassle and so much more weight and bulk to bring all those lenses. This is an all-in-one lens, so it's a super zoom camera. It's 600mm lens on a crop sensor, right? So it's even longer. So some of those nature shots, like birds that you see on the channel, the reason I'm able to get right in there is because this lens has so much range. And yes, the optics are not as good as real high quality lenses for an SLR, but on YouTube, are you noticing the difference? Most people probably not. It's also not a brutally expensive camera. I think it's about $650, which is valuable to me because I'm putting this thing through the ringer. Like this is the broken one. I'm recording with the exact same camera, just the newer one that I bought. You don't want to break an SLR, a $2,000 camera out in the bush, and things happen. You know, your dog hits your tripod, or your camera goes overboard in the canoe. Even if that actually happened to this one, but it stayed alive for quite a while. The GoPro just decided to turn on. They like to do that sometimes. But yeah, this one went for a swim, and it was underwater for just 2 or 3 seconds maximum, no more than 10 seconds. And I pulled it out and I let it dry for a couple hours and then tried turning it on, which is a really dumb idea. You should let it dry for probably a week before you try and turn anything on electronic. It made all these weird sounds and I was just crestfallen because I thought I had ruined my camera. I didn't have a lot of money at that time, and so that was really disappointing. But Panasonic, man, they make good stuff. They came back. Eventually it dried out and it gave me another 2 years of service before finally crapping out on our Quetico trip last year, which was like the worst timing. Longest trip of my life and Aaron's, and a really special trip to us on day 6 of a planned 16-day trip. The lens started like juddering. We could still record, but like the frame would just blah blah blah. It was rather jarring and really soul crushing out there. I was so disappointed, but I don't fault the camera. It's taken so much abuse, so many hits. One of the main things I love about it is this articulating screen. A lot of cameras have that, but even more don't. So that's crucial. So if you want to do selfie mode, if I want to turn the camera and be looking at the lens and seeing what I'm filming, so I can actually frame my shot instead of just setting it up this way and having no screen and hoping that my horizon's level, hoping that it's framed well and that the lighting's good. I can actually see it, and that is essential. I wouldn't buy a camera for vlogging that didn't have an articulating screen that I can see. This camera has pretty much all the functions you could ask for. You can do photography with it, and it has all the manual settings, but I find the optics are really poor when you do photography. For some reason they pass just fine for videography, but for stills, especially on the longer ends of the focal range, it's not very nice. So yeah, if you're looking for a photography camera, this is not the one. But for videography, I have not found anything to beat it for the money. It's got the cold shoe for mounting things like a mic, the mic out, of course a 1/4 inch thread for mounting onto a tripod. It takes an SD card, which are pretty darn cheap these days, as opposed to micro SD, which is a little more expensive. But yeah, anything you want to set, the functions in the menu are just, it's more than you could ever need. So there are very few things, none that come to mind right now, that I can't control on this camera. And then I typically have the lens hood on it because it just protects it from splashes from the canoe, like dripping off a paddle that splashes, or if it's spitting lightly. This is weather sealed, so that's a huge difference from waterproof. It's not waterproof, but it can take a little splash, it can take some spit from the sky, and it'll be fine. And that's really nice out for this kind of filming. But yeah, the lens hood kind of protects that, and it protects sun from coming in at weird angles and giving you weird sun flares. Sun flares can be nice, but generally I try and avoid them. And then on the inside here, extra memory cards. I've got a bunch. Never want to be short on memory cards on trips where you're making priceless memories. And to go back to the batteries, the reason I carry so many, people ask all the time, do you have a power bank to charge? Like, how are you powering your cameras for so long, so much footage? It's just a lot of batteries. And I've been asked, why don't you bring a solar panel? I would only bring a solar panel if I was on a trip that was longer than 2 weeks, because I think at that point, bringing batteries is just not practical. But up until that threshold of about the 2 week period, I think it is more practical to bring batteries. Let's say it's really rainy the whole time. You're not going to get much juice out of that panel. Not to mention, even if it is sunny and there are opportunities, you're constantly having to put it out and try and capture that energy. And then you got to transfer that energy to your batteries at night. And it's just, I feel like it would be so much fuss on a trip. And I would just want to enjoy the trip. So this is on demand, this power. Do all the charging at home efficiently, and then just when I need it, I have that power. It's a bit of extra weight, but if you want to bring a solar panel and a power bank to store all the energy in, you're probably at the same level of weight anyway, and more bulk because the panel's going to be big. So no, there's no question in my mind, I would rather have more batteries for a trip of that length. A really crucial part of filming, and I think is probably often the most overlooked, is your audio. This is the Rode Video Micro external microphone. It's nothing fancy, but it really enhances the audio compared to the built-in mics on the camera. And I'll explain what all this contraption is on top in a sec. This is the Manfrotto, it's M Compact Band or something like that. It's got a weird name, but the reason I bought it is for this pistol grip, which you can just lock with your thumb. I find that quite handy. However, this gave out and I had to replace it, and the warranty with Manfrotto in Canada was an absolute joke. So I really don't endorse them. Just saying what I have. Doesn't matter what, but a tripod, having a tripod is essential for filming in the bush. So here's what's going on with this. This is a reusable produce bag, which I use to cinch up and hold everything on. But the actual microphone is just this. And it goes on top onto the cold shoe and just clamps on there. And then this is the dead cat that helps stifle wind this direction. Problem is, if the wind is coming from the back of it, it goes in here. There's no protection on the back side. So it really ruins your audio if the wind is coming from not this direction, but you want the camera to point that way. So I wrapped a bandana around here to help stifle the wind and get rid of that horrible wind hitting a mic noise. And then this produce bag just goes on over top, and then I cinch it up to hold everything in place. So the other cameras, let me just get this piece of junk out of the way. This is the Yo-Yo underwater camera that I got this winter. I really dislike it. It's impossible to aim. You drop the camera down your ice fishing hole, or you can do it in soft water season too, and it just spins. The cord has memory to it, and it just spins, and even if once it stops spinning, it's impossible to just tweak it little degrees at a time. Yeah, I really just like this, but the one reason I do use it sometimes is for really deep water videography. It's super low res too. I think it's like 280p. So the quality is horrible. It's a horrible device. I want to just close it up and put it away. But yeah, if I want to sink a camera down 30 meters or about 100 feet, it is cool to see what's down there, and it has LED lights to light it up down there so you can actually see. But I would highly recommend you get a different one. GoPros, a staple in the business, in the industry of backcountry camping vlogging. This is the Hero 7. Erin got this when we started dating pretty early on. She wanted her own GoPro camera, which was amazing. And it was actually a huge upgrade because I only had the 6 at the time, and that was a quantum leap in audio. This audio on the 6 is terrible compared to the 7. And getting good audio is just essential. Like, it's half the experience. You're taking it in with your eyes. You got 2 eyes, 2 ears. Enough, as much priority as you put on the filming and the visuals, the same has to go into the audio. So I pretty much tried not to use the 6 at all anymore, except underwater, where I'm not trying to record crisp audio, or for time lapses. That's what I'll use this camera for. That is pretty much it. The 7 is terrific, but increasingly I'm trying to use the main camera more and more. It's higher quality. It just looks a lot better and more professional. A GoPro looks inherently amateurish, right? It serves a purpose, but if your entire video is shot by a GoPro, it has a different feel compared to something that's shot with not a high-end camera. This is, as I explained, not a high-end camera, but it is higher, crisper quality than this. But this is great when you're on the go. If I'm hiking on a portage trail and I want to record, it's better than this because the stabilization on these is just off the charts. Like, it's so smooth, and it's only gotten better since the 7, the 8, and the 9. It's just it's remarkable how smooth it is. Like, it's on a gimbal. But this does a trick for us for now, and the audio is sufficient. It's not as good as the main camera as well, but it's good enough. And then Erin, for my birthday last year, got me the GoPro Max, which is a 360 camera. You may have seen it on our late November canoe trip last year, where we did some 360 stuff with it. Super cool. It can record an entire sphere. The one thing is, it greatly extends your editing process, because you need to now go and reframe from that 360. So you've got an entire sphere of video recorded, and you need to pull a frame. So you have to go and say, okay, at 10 seconds, look here, and this is my frame. And then pan over at 15 seconds, and now this is my frame, looking in this direction. Or you can keep it in one direction, but the point is, you need to go and process every video you record from this that's in 360. You can record in hero mode, which is just like a single frame, front or back camera, you can choose, which is cool. And where this camera I think really excels is for motion. If things that are in motion and you don't have time to be framing your shot, you record everything and then you pull your frame after. So yeah, using it on that November trip last year, we ran some low-grade whitewater, and it was really cool just to have this camera in the middle, and I can look back at myself. I can now switch back to Erin at a moment's notice, and you can do all sorts of trippy things like Small World, where you zoom out and it turns your whole frame into this little globe. But not everyone likes that, and it makes some people sick. So I try to use that sparingly, but yeah, in rapids is where I'll really be using this the most. And then in terms of mounts, just standard GoPro housing, and then mini tripod. It's good. When you're holding the GoPro like this, you're likely to touch the mics and make unpleasant noise. You know, that rustling noise on the mic. It's really bassy. It's not nice. So you never want to hold the GoPro like this, even in the housing. You're likely to make that sound. Much nicer if you hold it on a mount, and then if you want to set up a time lapse or something, it's just a nice little platform to level it out on. And then of course we have, like everyone, we've bought some GoPro action cam kit that came with like 40 items, and most of them are useless, but anyway, it came with a head mount and a chest mount. Chest mount goes over your shoulders and around your back, and I used to not use this, but I'm increasingly liking it because it's just the head mount. If I have this camera looking at me, if you're recording someone with a head mount on, it looks so ridiculous. Like, you might remember Bill Mason wearing that enormous contraption on his head, which was like the GoPro of his era, custom made, I'm sure. And it looks so silly, and I'm sure in 10 years, 20 years, this is going to look equally silly to the next generation. So I'm kind of shying away from the head mount. The nice thing is you can turn it hands-free. You know, you look wherever you want to film, and that's nice in rapids, for instance. But yeah, it just looks ridiculous if you're actually shooting someone who has it on their head. The chest mount is a lot more subtle, and I find it doesn't look so ridiculous if you're recording someone who's wearing it. And it's an interesting perspective that you can still turn it a bit hands-free. You know, you can aim your chest a bit, but it's easier to turn your head. So pros and cons there, but I'm kind of liking this lately. The other thing is, in rapids, GoPro, what do you turn on? Turn off the voice activation. So this is how I mount on gunnels or thwarts, like so. It's just a clamp that allows you to mount the camera. This is from RAM. And this is all standard except for this piece here. This is a separate piece. It's just a ball joint, which has this standard 1/4" thread adapter. And then the trick is to get, if you want to elevate your perspective, to get a selfie stick that also has a female 1/4" thread. And then you can just screw that on there. And then you can get your camera, your GoPro action cam, much higher. I almost forgot the drone. This DJI Mavic Mini, I think you probably can't even buy this one anymore now, it's the Mini 2, has just been amazing. It's such cinematic footage. It's on a gimbal, so it's perfectly smooth, and I'm just blown away by this item. I think it costs $500–600 with the Fly More package. The Fly More package gives you extra propeller blades, 2 extra batteries, and the propeller blades you will need because you will crash it. The one thing about the Mavic Mini, it doesn't have obstacle detection or avoidance. So if you want to fly it into a tree, it will go into the tree. More expensive drones will automatically sense that, and they will stop themselves. But yeah, the Fly More package comes with those propellers. It also comes with a housing that goes around the propellers if you want to like practice. It's kind of like a cage, a lightweight plastic cage. You can even use it indoors, and the cage will hit things instead of your propeller blades. So it's good for practice, but I'd never use it or bring it. Not to mention that actually brings your weight above 250 grams. If your weight of your drone or UAV is over 250 grams or more, you're required to have a license in Canada at least, and I think in the US. But if it's under, you don't need a license, which is brilliant because they made this 249 grams, which is just insane that you can make this for that small of a weight. And it's been rugged, like I've crashed it a few times, and it has held up. So extremely impressed with this device. Yeah, the Fly More package comes with 2 extra batteries and this housing for them. So the housing has a USB 2.0 out, so I can like plug in my GoPro cord and charge GoPros off of it, or my cell phone uses USB-C as well. So I can charge either one of those if I don't need all these batteries for drone footage, which I usually don't. And that's really nice. So there's my power bank solved right there. And then it comes with this remote, which you put your phone here and plug it in, and then that's your remote. The drone doesn't record audio, so you'll need to overlay something. And this is where I've started to build a library of audio that I record myself. There are lots of different noises and sounds you can download off of YouTube's audio library for free, royalty free. You can get by with that, but I find it so much nicer to have sounds from the local environment where I'm filming, and appropriate for the season. So if I record some birds chirping, I'm going to save that file as audio only, get rid of the video footage, and then I will tag it with like birds chirping in May in Northern Ontario, for instance. So I want that audio to match conceivably when it was recorded. And I don't do that much, really only when the audio is missing or just not good. Then you can overlay something. It's nice to have options. Campfire crackling or rain falling, those are good pieces of audio to have because they're going to be, you'll be able to use them a lot. You might be around the campfire one night, but the wind might be just blasting, and then you're not getting good audio because all that wind on the mic is stifling the noise, the audio, and so you might need that footage to overlay, and those are things that really just elevate your video. In terms of software, for the first 3+ years, I was using Windows Movie Maker. It's embarrassing to admit, but it was functional. I had an extremely efficient workflow, and that made me hesitant to move to anything else. I've since gone to DaVinci Resolve, which is way better, and I see the light now, but and I didn't want to switch because I was just so efficient with Windows Movie Maker. But yeah, now the tools, especially audio tools, I just couldn't give up. Now I don't edit in Windows Movie Maker anymore. I couldn't go back. So DaVinci Resolve is free for non-commercial use, and it's complicated. There are probably softwares that you could pick up a lot more easily, but if you've been video editing for a while in any software, you kind of find the parallels, and you can transition easily enough. In terms of my editing workflow, before I even open up Resolve, I put everything on my computer from the trip, from all 4 or 5 cameras, whatever I bring on the trip, and I just run through them all and just see what I've got and kind of get like a bird's eye view of my content. So that also gives me an opportunity to delete utter garbage. If a clip is horrible, sometimes you leave the camera running and you forget. Say you're recording yourself eating a meal, and you just get into the meal and you forget you've been recording for 10 minutes. Give you an opportunity to pare stuff like that down. I'll actually bring that clip into editor, just clip out the like 15 seconds that I actually want, and then delete that huge file. Because video file storage is a huge part of this. I have like 4 hard drives upstairs, and that number is always growing. And you don't want to have excess data that's just useless. So yeah, as I go through all that footage, I'll just delete things that I absolutely know I don't want or need for the storyline, and then I bring it into Resolve. I just dump everything into my editing timeline, and I'll go through it, the entire thing, just start to finish, without really changing a ton, just kind of clipping, cutting this section. This is what I want of this clip, and that's what I do throughout. And then on the second run through, I'll go more in depth into the transitions and audio transitions, export, review the whole thing, watch it carefully, look for any stupid mistakes, fix them, export, watch again, and usually repeat that a few times to try and make sure that there are no errors. It's always possible. By the time that I have exported the final version of the video, I've probably seen every bit of footage 10 times or more. So it gets harder and harder to watch the entire thing back, especially in a longer video. To sit there and watch like an 1.5-hour video that I've seen 10 times and edited and know every second of, it can get really boring. And at those points, it's usually best to leave the video for a while, set it aside. You know, there's no huge rush to get it out. I get videos out pretty quickly relative to how long it's been since the trip, sometimes days or a week. And that's pretty fast. I think most people will take their time more. But now that I'll be doing this full time, I'll have the opportunity to get things out pretty quickly, I hope. I'm starting to ramble on, so I'm stopping here. I'm sure there are tons of things I didn't cover. Just ask below and I'll try and get back to you. I also forgot to mention that I record in 1080p, not 4K. Not enough people have 4K screens. YouTube degrades the quality so much when you upload anyway. I just find it's not worth it. And then moreover, it takes a ton more storage in hard drives and in memory cards. It just chews them up. And it slows down your editing, your video editing software, unless you have a really sweet laptop is going to struggle, and the fan is going to be like blowing like it's about to burst. So I don't record in 4K, just 1080p and 30 frames per second. My main camera, if at 1080, it can't record at 24. Normally I would just record at 24 frames per second, which is kind of a cinematic standard, I think. But it doesn't have that, so I shoot in 30, and then the GoPro can shoot in 24, but I just wanted to have the same frame rate as my main camera, so I shoot both in 30 frames per second.